All right, and we are recording, so let's go ahead and get underway, everybody here. So welcome to our Advanced Google for Education Part 2 session here. Again, if you're here with us for the Part 1 session last week, it's the exact same slideshow, same link, so you can get to it at bit.ly/advancegs. It is case sensitive, so capital A, capital G, capital S. For that, if you're here live with us, I'll put the link to the slideshow in the chat for you. And again, it's the same slideshow as last time. When you first come in, you can either click on the part 1 session or the part 2 button here. Of course, today we're doing part 2, so we'll just click on part 2 and that'll jump us over to our part 2 section of the slideshow. Again, same slideshow as before, it just houses both parts. And we'll go ahead and get underway here. If you're here live with us, please do go ahead and sign in for me. I have the link for that on slide 49 for you. Again, if you're here live, I'll put the link for the sign-in page in the chat. If you're watching this as a recording, of course, don't worry about the sign-in page. I'll give you guys a moment to get all signed in for me. In the meantime, I guess I'll introduce myself. So I think everybody in the chat looks familiar to me, so but I'll introduce myself anyway. So my name is Dan. I'm a technology integration specialist at Neonet. Here's my email on our first slide for part 2 here on slide 48, dneeson@neonet.org. So after today, if you kind of think of anything down the line and you have a question about anything in the Google world, feel free to shoot me an email. And again, sign in here if you are here in the live session with us. Again, if you're watching this as a recording, don't worry about it. But here's our to-do list for today. So again, if you're here with us in the part 1 session last week, the layout is we'll look at a tool in Google here to do a fairly in-depth demo of different things, kind of the big things to know how to do. Then I'll give you guys about 10 or 15 minutes after each section to kind of just poke around at it, start playing around with these different tools that we're going to take a look at today. So for today, we'll focus on Google Sites, Meet, Contacts/Groups, and Maps and Earth. I also slid Google Classroom in here as well. We'll go crazy in depth to it, but just a couple of other little things we'll mention. All right. And with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. All right, first things first here. You may have heard this is brand new stuff here at the time of our session. There are big new changes coming to how Google does things for their Google for Education. So Google is now rebranding G Suite for Education. It's no longer going to be called G Suite for Education. It's now going to be called Google Workspace for Education. These changes will happen over the coming months. So they have kind of a long roadmap ahead. But this link I have for you on slide 51, it goes over to this page from Google where they have all these like recorded webinars of talking about all the different things that are coming up, all these big changes that are happening. So kind of be aware of this. You don't have to watch all these things, and obviously each one's anywhere from a half an hour to an hour long. But if you're interested in the big changes here, this video explains all the big changes that are happening. You can even get the slide deck and all this good stuff. Basically, Google is changing up their structure of their different editions. So if you're familiar with the way Google for Education currently works, there's 2 editions. There's a completely free version, and then there is a paid version. In the free version, you get all the kind of the Google basics for free as long as you're a school. And in the current paid version, you get some extra things on top of that, extra things that teachers can do, extra tools that you get, and extra things that your Google administrator can do. Now, the big changes that are happening is they're changing up how many editions there are. It's going from just 2 editions, a free and a paid one, into 4 different editions. There is still a free version, which is really not changing that much. It's pretty much just a change in name only. And then there's going to be 3 different types of paid versions that kind of have varying degrees of functionality and things like that are going to change um, once they actually implement these changes. All right. Again, this is nothing that you guys probably have to worry about unless you're a Google administrator. But just kind of be aware of that. So some things may change. Some stuff might look different in the future. But in today's session, of course, we'll just kind of cover all the big things to know for all these big tools. No tools are going away. None of them are having a big, huge like overhaul or anything like that. So some tools will have smaller features in the future that will not be available for all the editions of Google. So just kind of be aware of that. So it kind of depends on what type of which edition your school actually has. If they do the free version or one of the paid versions. Okay. Generally for my trainings, I kind of like to stick to the free stuff, and I'll kind of mention some things that are in the paid versions, but we'll get there when we get there. All right. Again, if you have any other questions about this sort of stuff, always feel free to reach out. Okay. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into our first big tool of the day, Google Sites. So has anybody used this tool before? Has anybody ever played around in Google Sites before? Seeing some shaking heads, no. Nope. So this is a really, really awesome tool. It actually lets you create your own websites. And the really cool thing is there is absolutely zero coding knowledge needed. You do not need to know a lick of coding to do this. If you know how to click and drag things, that's pretty much all you need to know how to do. All right, so let's look at how to get started with Google Sites here. First of all, Google Sites has been around for a long time. They fairly recently gave it a big upgrade. This fairly recently, as in this is now probably 2 or 3 years ago. So make sure when we are practicing with this stuff, it's best if you use the new Google Sites. They've pretty much pushed the old Google Sites kind of into the background. You can still get to it, but for our purposes, we'll not worry about the old version. We'll just focus on the new version. Okay. So of course, to get there, again, to get to any of the Google things, there's multiple ways to get there. You can get there by going to the name of the app.google.com. So in this case, of course, it's sites.google.com. You will be able to find it in your waffle. So again, your waffle is when you go to like a new Google tab, you have our little grid guy here, way up in the top right corner. That's our waffle, and we'll find sites in there. There he is right there. And of course, you can also find it in your Google Drive. When you go to the new button and then go under more, you'll find Google Sites from there. The sites that you create are going to be saved in your Drive, just like any other normal Google file. Okay, so with that said, let's jump into a new Google site. I'll show you one more trick for getting there into a new Google site. In your address bar, you can just simply type in sites.new into the address bar, sites.new, and that will create a brand new Google site for you. And whatever account you're signed into, like on the whole browser on Chrome, that is the account where this site will be saved. All right, and as this loads for me here, there we go. It'll load up our page here, and this is the page. This is all the pages that we have to go to be able to edit this whole website, put this whole thing together. Okay, and pretty much from here, once you get into creating a new website, which we just did, that's all you have to do to make a new website. Then it's just coming down to inserting content, and all the stuff that you're going to do is all from this little right panel that says insert. So back in live over here, we just come to this insert panel on the over on the right hand side, and all this stuff we can just drop right onto our page. So we can make text boxes, images. We can also grab embed codes like from other things out on the internet. So if you're around like a website that you use a lot that has like some sort of interactive thing to it, sometimes you'll see that they have like a shareable embed code. This is where you can drop that embed code if they give you one. You can also pull files over from your drive. And then if we scroll down a little bit, we see these different custom layouts that let you, they're like templates, and they're just kind of little placeholders, so you can kind of have things organized in a nice, neat way. And if we scroll down even further, we're going to see even more stuff down the right-hand side here. So we have collapsible text, we have a table of contents, an image carousel, a button that link to another place in the website or to a whole nother website. You can put in dividers to keep things organized, these placeholders. You can drop in YouTube stuff. And as you can see, this list is pretty long here. And all this stuff, again, is just clicking and pretty much just clicking and dragging and building out the website for whatever you want it to be. Okay, we'll take more of a look at the insert tab in just a little bit. Okay, next thing here is adding pages. So of course, when you go to a website, usually the first page you go to when you go to a website, you go to whatever.com. The first page it goes to is like a home page where generally it gives you some information about the website that you're on. And then there's other pages that are linked at the top or on the side that jump you to different parts of the whole website to go look at specific topics. And so we can do the same thing here by adding pages. And it's from that same menu off on the right-hand side, but instead of under that insert menu part, we'll look under pages. So back over in our live demo here, we'll go over to pages up here on the right-hand side. And as we can see, the only thing we have is our home page so far. But if we want to have another one, we just come down to this little plus button at the bottom, and we can drop in whatever information that we want. So maybe if I want to have like a calendar page, I can drop one of those in there. And now we'll see we have the two different pages here, right? And we also have this navigation up here at the top. So we see our home page and we see this calendar. And this is exactly what people will be able to do to be able to jump from page to page. Another thing you can also do is you can, when you're adding a page, we'll add another one here. We'll say, maybe I'll do like contact. And what we can also do is we can nest pages inside of one another. So if I want to have maybe my calendar page inside of my contact page, all I have to do is just drag it from over here, and I'll just drag it right on top of that page I want. And now notice up here in the top, we have our home page that we kind of started with. Then under this contact page, we also have a drop down that automatically comes up and has our calendar underneath it. Okay, so you can have pages nested inside of pages. All right, and that's pretty much what there is to pages. Again, it all kind of comes down to organization. There's pretty much no rules when it comes to sites here. You can pretty much make all the pages that you want. You can really make them for whatever purposes that you want, organize them however you like. Next thing here, embedding versus linking websites. So embedding, like I mentioned earlier, gives you the options for live versus static view of like another website. A static view is it's going to be harder to resize, and it's visually interesting without extra work when you're embedding. So to be clear, what I mean by embedding is, like I said earlier, you have this like a little embed button here. And this is going to be good if you're on some other website that gives you an embed code. A good example is Padlet. I know that one gives you an embed code. And this is just kind of as an example here. So if I do, let's do this one here. Now this is just one example of another website that gives you an embed code. There's lots and lots out there that do that. Usually it'll be under some sort of share menu for whatever other website you're on. In this case, I'm over on Padlet, and here we have this embed code button here. And this is what embed code is going to look like. It's going to look like a whole bunch of gibberish right here. It's if you're familiar with HTML code, it's just a big block of HTML code. And all we have to do is copy it. We don't have to know how to type it or anything. We just simply copy it from the page that it gives you. And then we just drop it over here on our website by clicking on the embed option. And notice we can just drop the embed code, and we just paste that right in there. And we click next. It'll give us like a little preview in there. And we'll say insert. And notice it's dropping it right here into our website. And the cool thing about this is, one, again, that required zero coding. You just had to copy something over. And two, this behaves just like a picture. So all we have to do if we want this to be bigger is just kind of expand it out as if this was a picture. And we'll make this a bit bigger. And I'll make it as big as the page goes there. And maybe I'll even make it a little bit taller too. Okay, something like that. Now, again, you might be asking, okay, so how's that different than just putting a picture in here? Well, here, let me show you the difference real quick. So if I do a preview, when we go look at an embedded item, it's actually interactive. So like in this case here, I have this this item's from Padlet. If you're familiar with Padlet, it lets you kind of have like a digital like bulletin board that people can collaborate on. But as we can see, we can still make up other things. And so I just type new ideas on here, as an example. And so, of course, this is a really, really great way to have some sort of interactivity in here. And again, there's lots and lots of different tools and websites out there that give you embed codes. All right. Now, since I mentioned calendar, this is obviously a really popular thing. Let me just show you how to drop a calendar into a site. Now, if you're using Google Calendar, like we may have seen earlier, down our right-hand side under this insert menu, we have a calendar option. And we just simply click and we're just going to pull in that Google Calendar as long as that calendar is coming from that same account. So as long as the calendar is a part of the account, same account that you're using to make the Google site, we can just go and grab whatever calendar that is. So if, for example, I wanted to use my, let's do my training calendar that I use for all the trainings that I do. So I can drop this one in here. I can make this a little bit bigger again, like the other one, make it nice and big so it's easy to see. Depending on the type of thing that you drop in the page here, you may be able to edit it. So notice I have this little menu up here above my calendar, and I have a little settings gear here. And from here, I can change some settings. Again, this will depend on what you're putting into the page, but just kind of be aware if you click on the item, you may have some extra menu, some extra settings rather, that you can kind of fiddle with here. So like, for example, here, when you first drop in a calendar, it gives it like this like agenda view. Maybe if I want to have it on like a month view, so it's a little bit easier to see, I can change the view mode here down to month and change that. And hey, there we go. Now it's actually a month view. And again, we'll do another preview real quick. And again, hey, right there, we have an interactive calendar ready to go. Of course, we can click on things. Hey, there's our session for today. Even the link that you guys used to sign up to come to this session is all linked here in a interactive embedded item. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much what there is as far as embedding things. Of course, if you want to link over to other websites, kind of like I mentioned earlier, some depending on the website, depending on what you're doing, maybe easier just to drop a link onto the page as opposed to trying to find an embed code. Some sites may not even give you one. So what you can also do is, I'll just use this page here. You can also put in a button here. And this, you can call this button whatever you like in the name part here. I'll just say click here to see the weather, and I'll have it go to www.weather.com. Okay, and just like that, I just have a button here on my page. And again, I can make it as big as I want here. I can even change the style if I'd like, whatever I want. And again, I'll do another little preview here. And when people come into our page here, this is exactly what they'll see. They'll be able to click on it. It'll take them over to whatever page that you linked it over to. You can link over to a whole nother website like I did here, or you can link it over to a different page within your website. Okay, so you have that option for, again, embedding something from another website or just linking to another website. All right, again, here's that info about embedding things. Again, you can also get embed codes like from Twitter feeds and things like that as well. Okay. Next thing here is before we go into publishing our site, let's talk about styling things up a little bit. Of course, when you first come into the site, it'll just give you a default kind of layout and theme here. You can change the theme if you'd like by coming up way up to the top right, going to themes and pick whatever one that you like. If you want to kind of change the colors, you can do that here. You can even put in a custom hex code, or you can just drag the color thing to, to whatever color that you like. Easy. Another thing you can also do, this is a fairly new thing that Google Sites, the current Google Sites did, is now you can also have the ability to put in custom fonts and formatting here as you type things in, either in a text box or the text boxes that are already provided for you. So for example, here, it just has this kind of placeholder, your page title. So if I change this to home, but maybe I don't like this font, I can come under here and I can change the font to whatever I'd like. Okay, so you're not bound by whatever font they give you. Okay, so you can change the font. You can change the font style here, whether it's a heading or not. These are kind of default sizes. And then you can also change up the exact font size if I want it to be even bigger. Of course, I can do that. Bold, italics, underline. I can also change the text color if I'd like. I can also just drop in, make this a hyperlink itself, change the alignment, and then I can also indent it or change the line spacing or do a strike through or clear off formatting, all that stuff there. So you have all those same kind of formatting options that you would just like in a Word doc. Okay, so you have all those options there for all that formatting stuff. A couple other things to note about styling / navigation. As you are, once you create multiple pages, so like right now I have a home page, a contact page, and a calendar page, you may want to change up like how your navigation looks or kind of style it up however you'd like. So what you can do is when you kind of hover over this very top banner and go over to the left-hand side, we'll see we have this little settings gear way up there. And from here is where we can change up our style of navigation, either it can be on the side or it can be stuck at the top. So notice what happened when I change it on side. So now that those little navigation buttons are gone over here, but they're now over here in this little side menu. Okay. So again, you have all those options there. You have options for brand images. Your logo will be kind of the logo for the website that'll show up kind of across that top banner. You can also put in a favicon. Favicons are these little icons that show up in the tab name. So if you're looking at my screen, that little purple symbol there is the Google Sites symbol. That's the default one you'll get. Or if you see this yellowy one here, that's the one for slides. That's a little image that you can drop into the top of the tab, and you can make that whatever you want for yourself. Okay, then you have some other options in here. I'm not going to go too crazy deep into this stuff, but you have some other options in here, including an announcement banner as well. Okay. So that's pretty much what there is to putting the site together. Again, it's pretty darn easy to do because it's all just based around this insert page. And a lot of the stuff that you're going to be pulling in will probably just be pulled in pictures, some text. You may pull in some files like from your drive. Whatever items you pull from here will be dropped into the page. It's best if you double check and make sure the sharing settings for that file that you put onto the website are set for how you want them. So if you drop in a file onto the website and you only want people like within your school to be able to actually see the file, just make sure the sharing settings reflect that. Or if you want it to be public, you can also change that. So I believe you can do it from inside of the actual file. So just as an example here, let me just pull in something real quick here. So if I do, that's fine. I'll drop this Google Sheet in here. And of course we can, drop in this example Google Sheet. If we go into the settings for this one here, this one allows us to see what sheet it'll start with and so on and so forth. And it looks like we can actually open it in a new tab. So it depends on, I think it does depend on the actual sharing settings for the file. So just be aware of that. So if you're putting out stuff on the website, just kind of be conscious of, chances are anybody who's able to visit the website will be able to see the items that you're putting on it. Okay. So speaking of that, how do we actually publish the website? How do we decide who is able to actually come in and see the website? So this is how next thing we'll talk about is publishing the site and the different settings that we can do. Okay, so once we have a site all ready and done, we'll come up to this publish button up in the top right. And this will allow us to change a part of the web address. So by default, it's always going to be sites.google.com/your organization. You can change that ending part. So I've just called this demo March 3, right? And so I can change that much. I can kind of change that little ending there. I can't really change any of this other stuff unless you have it like redirect to another domain that you purchased. But then notice below here, this is where you can decide who can view your site. Okay, so again, by default, it's going to make sure it's locked to your domain. So it'll be locked to your organization. If you want to change that, click on Manage. And then, excuse me, and then under this links part, we can decide who the published site is viewable by. Is it going to be our organization or by the public? So if this site is going to be visible, it's supposed to be visible by the whole community or by parents, etc. You have to change it to public. If it's something that's just going to be purely internal, we can keep it on your organization, and that's totally fine. If it's only going to be shared with specific people, we can drop in that specific person and just change this setting right next to that person that you share it to a published viewer. Okay, and then that person can just come in and look at the website. Okay, so you have all those options. Of course, if you want to have a collaborator in here, it's the exact same process as adding a collaborator for any other Google thing. You just drop in their email, make sure they're an editor, and then send it over to them, and they'll be good to go. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and make this public then. Do public. When you're done. And again, to review here, we have a change in the web address name a little bit. I'll make it open to anyone on the internet can come in and look at my website. And it also gives you this extra option here if you make it public to request public search engines to not display the site. So for me, I'd probably do that one too. All right, and then we just simply publish. And notice there's a little notification at the bottom. Your site has been published successfully. Okay, now it's out on the internet. I really don't see nothing different here. The reason is I can still come in and make changes whenever I want to this site. Okay, if I want to go and check out the site as it appears to other people when they come in and just look at the site, up in the top right next to publish, go down and click on the little drop down, and we'll find view published site. And this will take us out to the real site here. This is the actual live site as people will go and see it. You can go to if you want to type this long address in, if you went to sites.google.com/nearnet.org/demo March 3, it would take you to this page and you'll be able to see everything in here. Okay, so I can even copy this and maybe I'll do an incognito window here so it signs me out of my stuff. And as a whole different account, again, this is what people are going to see. Okay. Again, some sharing settings, depending on what you drop into the page, like this Google sheet did not have sharing settings to allow anyone in the public to look at it. So just kind of be aware of that stuff, like I said. But anyway, there is our simple site. Okay. A couple other things to note. If you want to use to get a shorter web address, Easy thing to do is you use a URL shortener, like Bitly or Tiny URLs are both really good, easy to use. Basically, it would make it easier for people to get to your website so they don't have to type in the whole crazy long thing. That's one option. Again, you could, if you really need to, you could purchase a domain and have it reroute to that. But you would probably, in most cases, you're probably not going to have to do that. A couple of notes about publishing as well. You can always unpublish your site. The changes, you can change who can see it at any time. So if you accidentally made it public, you want to make it back to being just in your organization, or if you want to unpublish it completely, you can do that at any time. If you want to add more content to your page, so if, for example, maybe I add a whole nother page here. And I want to do that. There we go. And so if I want to add a whole nother page, and then if I click on publish again, it's going to show me the differences between the draft and what's currently published. Okay, so again, you'll be able to see those differences. And then if you're happy with the changes that you did, just click on publish. And again, the live site is going to instantly show those differences. Okay, so if you get rid of stuff or add stuff in, all that stuff can be published in basically manually. All right, and then here's lots of different ideas for sites. You can make class websites, do like Pathfinder activities / web quests, do a science journal, student or teacher blogs, use it for flipped instruction, a department website, tech support, obviously lots and lots of different ideas. All right, so that will take us to our first kind of open work time here. And so let's take about 15 minutes. We'll come back at 3:25 and take some time and play around in Google Sites. So create a brand new site, maybe for your class or for any of the other kind of ideas that are kind of floating around. Create a new page for each of your different preps or different sort of topics, embed videos or slides or calendars, whatever you like. Give it a preview, do a publish. And remember, your site will be saved in your Google Drive, just like everything else. All right. And again, we'll take about 15 minutes to practice with this stuff. And if you have any questions, again, always feel free to shout out. And again, we'll come back at 3:25. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on then. Now, this is a quick little pro tip I just kind of threw in the middle here. Not really attached to anything in particular. But this is a really nice little trick to know. If you need to make a copy of a Google Doc or sheet or slide or drawing for each person, but you are outside of Google Classroom, it's not going to go to like students or something, it's going to like other people, you can create a shareable link and then make this change in the URL. When you copy that shareable link, change the word edit to copy. That will allow that will force whoever clicks on that link to make a copy for themselves of whatever file that was. Again, you can do that with a Google Doc, a sheet, a slide, a drawing. So you have that option there. So just kind of be aware of that. A little tidbit there for you. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into Google Meet now. So of course, Google Meet is a big topic, of course, now in the era of remote learning here. Again, not going to go too crazy deep into Google Meet here. One, because it's pretty simple to use. And two, some changes are going to be happening with Google Meet. So I'll kind of talk about some of those things. So of course, to get there, you go to meet.google.com or find it in the waffle. Of course, from there, you can start a video call. You can schedule a meet in advance through the Meet homepage or through Calendar. And of course, you can also use the mobile app. So when you go to meet.google.com, let me just jump ahead here. You can, when you click on a new meeting, you can create a meeting for later. So you can schedule one here. And then take that link and then it's there, and then you can share it with other people that you need. You can start an instant meeting right now, or you can also schedule one in Calendar, and in this case, it'll shoot you over to your Google Calendar. And then, of course, you'll make an event, and you just turn on this button right here for Add Meet Video Conferencing. Okay. Now for this other box here for nicknames, so this will work for people within your organization. And basically what you can do is drop in a nickname. So if I, just do my last name here, it'll make a meet here for me. And this way you would only have to share this code name instead of a whole long link. And so let me just go ahead and join in here. And let me go ahead and use a different account here just to kind of show you. And if we're using a different account, so if like this is a whole nother account we're looking at right now, and if they use this same code that I just dropped in, they'll be able to join right into that Google Meet with me here without having to worry about the special link that I put in or anything like that. Okay. And we'll notice I'm already here in the call. Okay, so the super simple stuff. That is kind of the basics of doing Google Meet things here. And like I said, you can also schedule one through Calendar, so it can be attached to a calendar event. Okay, then of course, when it's time to make your call, you'll be able to use the the buttons that are there basically to make your call, to whether to hang up or turn on your video camera, all that good stuff. Then of course, there's lots and lots of different uses for Google Meet, even after the era of remote learning finally ends, and we kind of get back to things as normal. You can still use Google Meet for lots and lots of different uses here, whether it's for teachers or not. There's still lots of tools out there. A couple things to mention before we talk about Empatico. When it comes to recording, I'm going to just do a search for this here. When it comes to recording a Google Meet, you will have the option to do a recording for now, but that may kind of change a little bit depending on what edition of Google Workspace that you guys eventually do. So just kind of be aware of this here. So let me kind of find this page here. Yeah. And so essentially the idea is when you create a Google Meet recording, whoever the host is will receive the will receive the recording of that session. Okay. They're going to find it in their Google Drive. Again, whoever the host is, generally it's who created the meeting. And they're going to find it in their Google Drive. They'll find a folder called Meet Recordings. This folder is going to be automatically created. And inside of it are going to be all the recordings that you've done in Google Meet. They're just video files. You can move them around, move them to different folders, whatever you want. Now, the difference, that was the wrong thing. The different thing that's going to be happening soon is there's going to be a difference between what one of the paid editions of Google Workspace does versus what the free version does. So in the free version, you are still going to be able to record your Google Meets, but they are going to be what are called temporary recordings. This is where you'll be able to still watch the recording, and you'll be able to share it with others, but it's only going to be temporary. It's only actually going to be saved in your drive, in the host's drive, for I think it's 30 days. Once that 30 days is up, the video basically disappears automatically. You can, in this temporary recordings, you're also going to have you're also not going to have the ability to download the videos like we can now with these recordings. Okay, so again, to summarize, in the future, this is not out yet, but in the future, if you're doing the free version of Google Workspace for Education / G Suite for Education free version, you can do a Meet recording. It's going to be temporary, so that means it's only going to be available in the host's drive and through sharing for, I believe it's 30 days, and you will not be able to download it. Okay, in the paid version, I don't remember offhand. I think it's the Teaching and Learning paid version, paid edition of Google Workspace. The recordings are going to work the way they do now, where you can make a recording, it'll save it in your drive, and you can make as many as you want. Okay, and you can download them, you can share them, you can do whatever you want with them, and they're permanently yours. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of clarify that difference. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay, I'll skip past showing that link there, but you kind of have the idea. Okay. Another thing I just kind of wanted to show here is this other tool that I came across a while ago called Empatico. Now, this is not specifically about Google Meet, but I just kind of like mentioning this. So if you're interested in getting your students talking with others outside of their bubble, this video chat platform brings students of different backgrounds together to complete meaningful activities. And so essentially what this site does, let's head over to Empatico. Where's the link for it? Oh, do I have the link here? Oh, I do. Okay, there we go. So if you click on the picture, I'm sorry about that. If you click on the picture, that'll take you to the link for this website. And so again, what this site does is it allows groups of kids from very different places to be able to kind of compete in similar activities, to be able to talk to each other, and really get kids outside of their bubble. This is a really, really cool tool, whether you're doing remote learning or not. And they'll match you up with another teacher and another group of students from some other school. I believe they usually try to find, they'll search, I believe it's 500 miles away from your location. So I think the general idea is you're not going to talk to anyone that's within 500 miles of where you currently live. So of course, there are lots of examples of kids in America talking to kids in like India or something like that. And well, they have different pre-designed activities and things like that. I believe they do have a actual video chat platform of their own, but you can use Google Meet to do these things as well. And they have lots of different activities and kind of ideas that are already in here for you guys to check out. So I just wanted to kind of mention this thing real quick without going too deep into it here. It is just a really cool program. So again, feel free to check that out if you want to try that out more. All right. Another thing to check out as well is Google Voice. So this is another kind of different thing. This is outside of Google Meet, but I'll just kind of lump it in here. So Google Voice is where you can create a fake phone number, and this is a really nice way to check your email. Basically put your phone number out there for parents or for students. That's not your actual phone number. Yeah, for Sharon's question, is Empatico geared towards K-12? It is K-12. Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Check out that website more. It is a really cool program. It was made, if I remember correctly, it was made by the guy that founded the Kind, like the Kind granola bar place. So he started that program too. So it is a very cool program for sure. Anyway, so for Google Voice, again, this is a way for you to create your own phone number here that's not your actual phone number. It's a online phone number that you can use, really good for like parent communication, student communication. You can call and text from it. It's pretty darn easy to use. One thing to note about it is some schools may have this option turned off for you. So using your school account may or may not be a possibility. It depends on It depends on your school. Always check with your school for all these things that we're talking about. All the different, all the different tools that we talk about, all the different things inside or outside of the Google world. Some things may be good for you to use in the classroom. Some things may not be for you. Some things your administrator or tech administrator may or may not want you to use. So always just kind of keep that in mind. All right, and this is pretty much what the interface looks like here. Basically, when you sign up for a Google Voice account, you'll be able just to pick a phone number that is available, and you can basically just claim that phone number and you can start using that. You can use the accompanying Google Voice app on your phone, and whenever somebody calls you or texts you at this number, it'll make a notification either here on the web page or on your actual phone if you have the app. So again, it's another way to use to get in communication with people without having to actually use your actual phone number. And again, you'll be able to text and things, and you can check voicemail from here as well. Okay, it's pretty simple to use. Let me just do a different account that doesn't have an account already. I don't think this account does. Just want to show you how to get in here if you're brand new here. There we go. And let me go ahead and sign in. I have so many accounts that I have to make sure I haven't actually used this service with this account. So let's jump in here, let this load. Okay. All right, so there's welcome to Google Voice, free phone number to take control of your communication. And we'll go ahead and continue. Okay. And we can do by area code. So if I do 44221, that's Cuyahoga Falls. Or I'm sorry, that's zip code, not area code. 330 is Cuyahoga Falls. Nothing available for there, so 440 is another Cleveland area one. There we go. And so, of course, you can kind of look through and find one that's available that you like, and you just basically claim one. And we've been selected. And we would put in a number to your actual account, to your actual phone number, rather, to verify it. And then, again, it would take you over to the other interface. Once you have that, and you're basically good to go from there. Again, this is a pretty simple thing to do. Again, depending on your school, they may have this service turned off, so just kind of be aware of that. Again, some schools may not want you to use it for other reasons. I've heard some teachers' organizations may not want you to use these things as well. So check with all that stuff. I'm just sharing another tool with you that's available to you guys. Okay, so just another thing to be aware of. All right, hopefully that's all making sense. All right. All right. So that's pretty much what there is to Google Meet and / Google Voice. Again, Google Meet, once you kind of have the basics down, there's pretty much that's it. Again, the big changes that are going to be happening in the near future, again, as Google is changing things from G Suite to Workspace, those more and more changes are going to happen. There's going to be more services that are added, more functions and things in Google Meet that just be aware of them as they come through. Generally, it's always a good idea to keep an eye on these update blogs here. Good ones are this site here, workspace.google.com/what's new. This site will show you all the upcoming new stuff, and they just list off all the new things that are coming out. And you can stay current that way. And just using these tools often, you'll just occasionally see new things show up, and sometimes they draw attention to it. They'll give you like a little tutorial of how to do things, and sometimes they don't. There's just a new button there sometimes, and you'll be like, oh, that's what that does. Like in the case of Google Meet, if we jump into a new Meet here, I just want to show this other couple of little tidbits here of brand new things. If we jump into a brand new new Google Meet here. Let me load up here. My computer never likes when I'm running Zoom and Meet at the same time. It takes up a lot of memory. There we go. Let's go ahead and jump in real quick here. Now, again, you're going to see new things pop up occasionally, like the raise hand button. That one's fairly new. This whole security host controls thing, that's another fairly new thing that just kind of popped up a few months ago. Other new things is under the people menu. You'll also have this option, these options up here, particularly this muted button here. This is where you can mute everybody all at once and keep them locked as muted. That was a new thing that Google just put in here. So again, you're going to see updates like this. You're going to see a change up to have a little bit for how breakout rooms work. Again, we talked about the change in how recordings work. So there's going to be a lot of changes. And there'll be more of like the backgrounds that you can see when you do a virtual background like I'm doing right now in Zoom. You can do the same thing here. They're going to change up and add more of those things in the future. Same thing for hanging up as well. When you hang up a meeting, this other new thing has now come up here where it says end the call for everyone or just leave yourself. So when you're in a Google Meet with a lot of people, if you want to end it for everybody, you can end the call, again, if you're the host, or you can just leave it and keep the room intact so other people can still stay in the room and talk. Okay, so just be aware of those things. Again, you're going to see updates happen whether you're coming in here and checking on these update blogs, or if you just use the tools a lot, you're going to see those changes happen. So Google Meet in particular is seeing a lot of changes. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and take another 10 minutes or so. So how about we come back at 3:55 and play around in a little bit in Google Meet or Google Voice. Of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. You of course can also look on these update blogs here for any of the new stuff that's coming out. Again, it's kind of a good idea to do that anyway. But anyway, so again, let's take about 10 minutes here. We'll come back at 3:55, and then we'll jump into contacts in groups. All right. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Oh yeah, check out Empatico too. Don't forget about that. All right, everybody, we'll come back together again. Any thoughts, any questions about anything that we covered so far? Sharon says in the chat here, she watched the Empatico intro video. It looks like it's geared more towards ages 6. Oh, ages 6. Okay, ages 6 and 11. Hopefully explain to middle school and high school students. Yeah, it is a really cool program. Absolutely. I'm not sure. I didn't sign up with it, obviously, because I don't have a real class to actually do this with. I'm not sure if they have like age limits or anything. So, but yeah, absolutely. It is a really cool program for sure. Hopefully they do expand it. That would be great. Okay, so for our last hour here, I think we're going at a pretty good clip here. I think we'll actually finish out a little early. I'm sure nobody's too mad about that. We'll cover contacts and groups, and then we'll just kind of mention a few things about Google Classroom and then a couple other little loose ends, and then we'll talk about maps, and then we'll wrap it up for the day here. So contacts and groups. So these two tools are really, really great for, especially for like creating like email groups. And that's kind of where we'll focus here between these two items. So in Google Contacts, you can create a single new contact. You can create labels. You can import a list of contacts, and we'll talk about that template. And then over in Google Groups, we'll talk about that to create an email group, and you can add members and configure security settings. So we'll talk about how to do both those things. One thing I wanted to mention here, here's a video about how to use, how to send mass emails here. So to clarify the difference between these two and kind of like how you would use them, Google Contacts is really good for keeping track of people just for yourself, basically creating a contacts list just for yourself within that account that you're using. Google Groups is going to be really good for the entire group of people because it's one big shared group that everybody's in. So the people that you put in your Google group know that they're all part of that single group together. In contacts, the people that are in your contacts don't know that don't know each other necessarily, and they don't know that they're necessarily a part of your contacts list. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So let's kind of take these apart real quick, and we'll jump into contacts first. So like I said here on the left-hand side, we'll create a single new contact, create some labels, and we'll also be able to import a whole big contacts list at once. And this is going to be a really good way to share all your Google files when you do your sharings, or even sending mass emails through Gmail as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into another account here. And let's go ahead and do Google Contacts. Where are you, Contacts? There you are. And so let's go ahead and jump in here. Okay. And of course, we can see I have my total contacts here. I just have some example contacts in here already. If we want to, like we said, create just a brand new contact, of course, really easy, come up to the top left, and we can create a contact, or we can create multiple. If we create a single one, we can, of course, can put in anybody's name, company, job title, email, phone number, all that good stuff. There's even more options where you can put in all this other stuff in there as well. Okay. Notice you can also add in a label. Now, if you're familiar with Gmail labels, it works the exact same way. Or if you're here with us when we're talking about Google Keep labels are the same thing. Just these different categories that we can put items under, and a single contact here can go into multiple labels. Okay, so if I want him to be a part of any of the different labels that I already have, or I can make a new one, I can do that. Okay. Now, if we want to, let me jump back here. If we want to create a whole bunch of people, like a whole list of contacts, I have a template that's linked here on slide 73. On slide 73, there's a link here for this Google Contacts import template. And basically all that we would do is we would make a copy of this template for us. Again, I use that little URL trick that we talked about earlier to force a copy there. And here is this template. And all that we would have to do is fill in the information that we want. Generally, the ones that you have to have is like the names and an email address. That's pretty much the big ones to put in here. Yeah, you can put in phone numbers and stuff too. But of course, that's pretty much it. Then there's also a directions tab at the bottom. So you fill in as much information as you like on the first sheet. If needed, you may hide a column by right-clicking on it and click Hide Column. When you're done putting in your data, go to File and download as a CSV and upload that CSV to Google Contacts. So if I want to make some contacts here, and I type in, Andrew Anderson, his email is, andrew@email.com. And we'll put in some more names here. And we'll do one more. Okay, put in the information that we like. Again, there's a lot of categories in here. You can put in a bunch of stuff, but of course, just put in the stuff they actually need. And then, like it said, like the instruction said, we just go to File and Download, and we're going to do a CSV file. Okay, and then once we have that CSV saved, back over here in contacts, if I want to add those contacts to this to this Google Contacts page here, I can go under Import down here on the bottom left. We'll select a file, and we'll go grab that CSV that we just did. Okay, we can even put it into a new label. So if I say, I'll just call this, today's March 3rd, so I'll say March 3 group. course, I can call it whatever I want. If this is like an email, or if this is like an email group or email list of, teachers or certain grade level students or grade level parents or whatever it is, I can do that. And then we'll just say import. And now that whole group is now imported into our Google Contacts here. And notice it, because I put them on this label here, they're imported together. It does do an automatic import group by itself, or the custom name one that you gave it. So you don't have to give it a custom name at the beginning, or you can just delete the one that it came with. So I'll keep all contacts and delete the label. There we go. So I still have this March 3 group label all saved together. Now, the cool thing about doing this, again, when you are sharing like a Google Doc file, for example. So if I make a little Google Doc in here, and I want to send it to all 4 of these people, I won't have to type in all their email addresses when I want to share it with them. Okay, so what I would have to do once this loads for me here, there we go. I'll go up to share just like normal. And we just type in the name of the group. What did I call it again? I forgot. March 3rd group. There we go. There it is, March 3rd group. And it's going to drop in all those names. Okay. And imagine, there's only 4 in here, so it's not that big of a pain in the butt to type in 4 email addresses. But what if you had 40 or 400? You can imagine that can save you an absolute ton of time. Okay. And then just like that, we can send it on out and works just like normal. Okay. Same thing for Gmail. So if you aren't sharing a file, maybe you're sending an email out. Again, this is only going to work in Gmail from that same account. But if we do the same thing, make a message here. Let's load for me again. Come on now. There it goes. And we call this March 3rd group. There we go. Drop them all in. If you have multiple names, so I have another one for like my example class, you can drop in a ton of names in here with just a couple of mouse clicks. Okay, and that can, again, save you an absolute ton of time. Okay, so again, this is really useful for your own use. So if you are, again, have large groups of contacts, this is an easy way to group them together. Just drop them into these labels, and then whatever you call these labels over here is what you type into the toolbar for Gmail, or if you're sharing a file in Docs or Slides or Sheets, whatever it is. Okay, and that's pretty much what there is to contacts. Again, the template for this import spreadsheet here is linked here on slide 73 for you. So just give a click on that. It'll make a copy for you, and then you just drop in whatever information that you need, save it as a CSV, and drop it in to contacts, and then you're good to go. Okay, so that's the contact side of thing. Again, the people that are in that contacts group aren't going to probably know that they're in that contacts group, because it's just for your own use, just to be able to easily send out big groups of emails to a bunch of people at the same time. Now, the other thing you can also do is you can also do a Google group. Now, Google groups are especially good for sending mass emails to a big email group, a big email list. Now, this will work outside of Gmail as well. So even if you, like if your school uses like Outlook or another email service, you can still do this one. Okay, again, provided that you have Google groups turned on at the district level. But if we go into Google Groups here, okay, let's loads for me. There we go. We'll see all the different groups that I'm a part of here. As you can see, I've done a demo on this a few times. And once we're in here, when it's time to create a group, we just click on create a group up here, and then we just start filling out this information. If you've used Google Groups in the past, before the process was a lot more complicated and kind of confusing than it needed to be. They revamped the actual website here to make it a lot easier to use. So if you haven't touched Google Groups either ever or in a long time, definitely check it out. But anyway, so if I want to call this one, March 3, I'll just call this March 3 group. I'll call it the same thing. It's fine. And I can put in a description if I'd like. And we'll say next. Now, under privacy settings is where we'll set all our options. Again, all this stuff is completely self-explanatory. So you can decide who can search for the group. So I can say anyone on the web or just group members. So if I want to keep this kind of a closed group, it's just for whatever purpose it's actually for, I can do that. Who can join the group? Only invited users. Anyone can ask or anyone can join. The difference between asking and joining is asking is they ask you and any of the group managers or the owner. You get a notification saying, hey, this person wants to join, and then you can decide whether or not to let them in. If you set it to anyone can join, anybody can join without asking. And then who can view conversations. And so you can decide how conversations are split up. So you can have them be just group owners, just group managers, group members, or anyone on the web. So you can decide any of this stuff here. Okay. Who can post, so that you can have the whole group. I'm sorry, the whole group owners, group managers, members, or anyone on the web again. So again, Google Groups is kind of almost like a blog where you have members of that group, and then you can see different posts that the members make. Now, I think the most useful application for this is actually as an email list, which we'll talk about in just a second. But this is where you can decide exactly how members actually interact with each other. So whether or not you want people in the group to be able to talk to each other, this is where you decide that. Okay. Or if it's just something that's purely coming for me. So as an example, if I'm creating this email group to go out to all 6th graders' parents, I probably don't want the parents to be able to talk to each other. So who can view conversations? Probably just group managers. Who can post? Probably just group managers. And who can view members? Again, probably just group managers. Okay. That way, when I send out a message, the people that are looking at it can only look at it, and that's pretty much it. They're not going to be able to see other people that the message went out to. They're not going to be able to respond to each other. It's just kind of information going out from me to others. It's not really a two-way street. Okay, I'm going over to next, and we can add members, so we can drop in members in here. We can also drop in our managers. So if we have other people that are helping us out to manage the group, we can do that. Same thing for group owners. Group owners are essentially the same thing as managers, but they also have a few more options. They can, like, of course, get rid of regular members, or they can also shut down the whole group. So just kind of be aware of that. For when you're putting people in for group members, you don't have to necessarily know everybody's name or anything here. You can actually leave this blank for now. That's totally okay. And what you can do is then give out the link to get into this meeting, or into this group rather. Okay, you can put in a welcome message if you like. They can decide how the subscription actually works. Again, in most cases, you'll probably have it be on each email. And then you can do directly add members, so you can add members to the group directly, or you can turn it off. And then you can have kind of a different layout. Again, in most cases, you're probably going to have this turned on. Okay, we'll sign off that we're not a robot here, and we'll create the group. Okay, and the group is now made. And go to the about page here. This web address, or this email address rather, is now an actual email address that we can use from any email service. So even if I use Outlook, or if I use Gmail from a whole different account, as long as I'm a member of the group, I can email that group and be a part of it. Okay. Of course, if you want people to join, we can go over to the People tab here, go into Members, and we can add members drop in the people that we need. We can also export the list of members as well. So if you want to have a list of people that are there, you can do that as well. If you have a whole like big list of group members, you can just grab them from a spreadsheet. So like for the example that we had earlier, let me pull up this that we had. So we had the CSV thing that we did earlier, just to kind of do the same thing. Let's see. There we go. So if we open up the CSV, we can just grab that list of email addresses, copy it, and paste it over here. And again, we don't have to type them all in over and over again. So if you have those emails listed there, you can do that. Nope, that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong thing. That's the one I wanted. There we go. Copy these emails, copy, bring them over here, paste them, and add in those members. Okay. And again, just like that, we can drop in a whole list of members easily. And now, of course, any of these members are now going to get those emails when somebody sends a message to march3group@googlegroups.com. Okay. All right. So again, that's kind of a really helpful tool for being able to send out messages to a lot of people easily. Because that's one thing I kind of see all the time is, well, how do I just simply send a message to a bunch of people without having to find that spreadsheet that has all those emails in there again. So that's a couple of ways to be able to do that. All right. This video here on slide 74 basically just summarizes all the stuff that we just talked about. All right. Okay. So again, let's take this one's, again, not too complicated, but we'll take another 10-minute break here to play around in contacts and or groups. So take some time here and take about 10 minutes. We'll come back at 4:25 and try Google Contacts, make a contacts list. You can use that template from slide 73, make an email list from Google Groups, maybe start filling out the contacts import template if you want to do that. Right, start kind of poking around with that stuff. Yeah, this stuff's pretty easy to do. You just kind of have to know how to do it, I guess is the best way to put it. But again, let's take about 10 minutes here. We'll come back at 4:25. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. So we'll jump into maps/earth/ kind of more, etc. For our kind of last big chunk here. So Google Maps, of course, is a huge thing. Of course, great for like navigation and stuff, and you can send your location to your phone. You can actually get embed code, and you can put it onto your sites as well from when you're on Google Maps. There's also a cool thing that you can do also called My Maps, and this is a really fun tool. It's good for like personal use, honestly, but it's also good for like student activities and things like this. So when you use a My Map, you are able to basically mark different places on the globe here and give them little notes. You can also customize kind of any sort of items that like the description. You can change up the picture and all this different stuff that you can do. It's actually a pretty nifty thing here. And so like in this case, all these items I have listed here are all these different pins that I have saved in my maps, and all these items that we save here we can customize up more. So if I want to add in some more text here, so like I saved like the Cleveland Zoo, I can add in more of a description if I like. This is the kind of the default review page for this location that you just kind of get. You can also remove that, and if you want to have your own description in here, you can drop in whatever whatever information that you'd like, and you can also use that little picture icon to make a little independent or a little unique picture that kind of serves as the pin. So if I do like a Google image search for an elephant I can drop that elephant picture in there. You can see I kind of had a tiger already, but as it drops in there, there we go. That'll save this picture in here for me. Oh, I'm sorry. That will drop in the picture here. If you want to change the pin, I think we have to click on this guy first. Ooh, it's going. Ooh, I'm kind of laggy on here. But if you want to change this stuff again, you can change it from here. If you want to change your pin, let me kind of zoom in here because it's being kind of funky with me right now. There we go. I believe you can change your pin if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I'm thinking of maps. I might be. And let's see. Oh, you know, I am. I'm sorry. I'm getting the two confused because we're going to look at Google Earth tours in just a little bit, and you can make your own pins there that kind of change up the picture that you see for the pins. The pictures that you add will go into the description here. But again, this is kind of a simple way to mark different places on maps and be able to add descriptions, add pictures, add some items in there. All right, this is, again, it's pretty easy to use. All the stuff that you save in here is still going to be saved in your Google Drive, just like any other file. So if you just go into your Google Drive and search for your My Maps, I just call this one of my places around Cleveland. I'll find it in my drive. Of course, you can also share it from here as well. If you want to share the link, we can copy that over. And then if somebody else goes and looks at it, it'll take them over to my favorite places. And of course, I can kind of jump from place to place. Okay. Again, not going crazy deep into my maps here. It is a cool tool to use, but I'll save more of the time here for the Google Earth kind of equivalent of this one. And this is where you can really get some really, really cool stuff. So Google Earth, of course, back in the day was actually a program you had to actually install onto your computer. Google actually now made Earth available on the browser, so there's nothing you have to download. You just go to earth.google.com, and from here we'll be able to come in here and launch Earth. And once this loads up for me, it'll take a minute or two. The cool thing about Google Earth now being on your browser is, one, it gets updated with a lot of new stuff pretty frequently, especially these pre-made voyages, like I'll show you guys in just a second. You can also create your own projects here, kind of similar to what we just saw in My Maps, but it kind of goes further. And you can even import or export these special files called KML files that let you either pull in or pull out these like virtual field trips with all these different steps. Well, you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. So let me go ahead and get this loaded up here. And once this loads, we'll go and jump into an example. There we go. And so, of course, if you've ever just played around in Google Earth before, of course, you have the whole globe and you can kind of just go and explore and do whatever you want, right? Now, the cool thing is Earth now has these things called voyages built into them. So if we go into Voyager, the little pirate ship wheel on the left-hand side, this is where we're going to find a whole bunch of these pre-made voyages. They're like virtual field trips. They have various different purposes. So we see like this National Geographic one, like a photo arc kind of thing. There's one for sky high Ferris wheels. There's one for all about New Zealand, one about 3D imagery in Google Earth, iconic women of science. And if we scroll down, there's even more in here. There's different categories as well. There's even an education one specifically. There's triangular structures, geometry of sustainable architecture, the Underground Railroad, all this stuff. Poetry around the world, has all these different pre-made voyages in here. So this is a great thing to show off with students. And if we just jump into one here, so if we do, let's do reading the ABCs from space. We'll just click on that one and it'll start this voyage here. And if you want to share this voyage with somebody else, before we click start exploring, we can just copy this link here. And this link, we can go share it to somebody else. Notice there was no sign-in required when we came into Google Earth. You don't have to necessarily sign in. So you can just copy this link, go share it with somebody else. There's no settings or anything they have to fiddle with. Just share this link with somebody else. It'll take them right to this page. So if you want to share this with students, if you want to share this with another teacher or someone else, you can just share this link right with them. And they can go see this particular voyage that it puts us on. And then from here, it's going to take us through each step on this virtual field trip here. And now each stop here is a different, in this case, it's a different letter of the alphabet that you can see through some natural structures. So like here's the letter A in a river. If we jump to like the letter H, for example, it'll jump us out. It'll fly us over. I'm not touching anything here. This goes over to the next stop automatically. We can see the letter H here. It's over in Kyrgyzstan, if I can even try to pronounce that right. If we jump over to N, again, it'll zoom out and fly us over to Canada to see where there's a natural formation that looks like an N. So again, this one kind of is a kind of a geographic representation of the different letters in the alphabet. So again, there's a good number of these that are pre-made in here. Again, just in that Voyages tab, you can scroll through and find a ton of them in here. So if you want to share any of those, they're all free. You can all just go and look at any of them that you like. Now, if you want to make one of these things for yourself, you can. The way to do it is by going to this little icon here. When you hover over it, it's called Projects. When we click on that, we're able to basically make a new project. And just like we saw over in My Maps, it's going to save it here. It'll save it here in Google Earth, and the actual file will be saved over in your Google Drive. And we'll call this one, I'll just call this one World Tour. Okay. We can add a description if we like. And then we start adding these, what they call features, or just different stops on your virtual field trip. And we can search for a place. So if I want to have, the Great Wall of China, it'll fly us over to that location. And if we want this to be a stop on our virtual tour, okay, if we like what we see, of course, lots of places will have some information about it. If we want to add this to our tour, we'll say Add to Project, and we'll say Save. And now this location is saved in our virtual tour. And if we like, we can move the the view around a little bit if we'd like. If we click on the item here that we saved, and then click on Edit Feature, this is where, again, we can kind of change the different starting views here. We can kind of move the satellite around, zoom it in or out. We can also click on this little pegman, this little yellow guy here, and anywhere that there's either a blue dot or a blue line on the map, so we see all these little blue dots, if we click on any one of those or drag the little yellow guy there, it'll take us into the street view for that location, and we can make one of these our view for when people come to the stop on our tour with this capture this view option there. Okay, and from here over on the left hand side, this is what I was thinking of over in my map, so my apologies for that, but this is where we can change the pins here, so we can come in here and change all this stuff if we'd like to put in our a custom icon, if we want to have a custom pin for the stop on this tour. Okay, and then if we're all good, we can basically just make a new feature, search for another place, and go somewhere else, and we basically just repeat from there. Okay, and so once we're done, let me go back here. Once we're done, making all of our different stops on our tour, again, all this stuff saves automatically, just all like all the other Google stuff. We can still share it, just like anything else, and we can make a shareable link here once this loads for me. There it goes. And this is the exact same sharing page that we've seen a million times in the Google world here. We can go share it with whoever we like. And these files are going to be, again, found in your Google Drive. So this world tour thing that I just made, it's going to be in my Google Drive. And I believe it puts it in this folder here called Google Earth. Okay. There's our world tour. There it is. If I double click on it to open it, it'll open it right over in Google Earth, and it'll launch my it'll launch my virtual tour. And the cool thing about that as well, that means if students make these things themselves, they can turn in this file just like they turn in any file, like through Google Classroom, and then that can go right to the teacher. The teacher can go and look at their virtual tour, and away they go. Okay, so again, it's pretty easy to use. Again, we're not going too crazy deep into it, but this is an awesome tool for learning or for just for fun. Honestly, it's kind of a cool thing. All right. Another thing I'll mention real quick here, I'm not going to go too deep into this one because I have sad news about this one, but I'll explain first. So Google Tour Creator is where you can build your own 3D tours, kind of the same idea that we saw over in Google Earth. These ones are particularly used for the 3D headsets, like the VR virtual reality headsets. You can still view them on computers, but kind of the main idea was to use them with the Google Expeditions app and with the actual the headsets, the Google Cardboard headsets. Again, I'm not going to do really a in-depth thing about this tool for Tour Creator. Main reason is Tour Creator is going to be going away. So this is a tool that has been around for several years now, but Google is kind of getting rid of it. I think their thought process was, well, this stuff that we just talked about over here in Google Earth, these projects, these virtual field trips that we made here, there's a lot of overlap between what happens here and what happens with Google Tour Creator. So they're slightly different things, but I think Google probably just thought there's too much overlap to keep both of them. So they're going to be getting rid of Tour Creator. I believe they're going to be turning it off this coming summer 2021. So just kind of be aware of that. So if you have used this in the past, it's something that's going to be going away, unfortunately. All right. Again, we'll skip past our open work time for this stuff just because we're pretty much at the end here. But just kind of be aware of mainly my maps and especially Google Earth, and mainly this projects and the voyages. Those are the big things to know. All right. A couple of things I just wanted to mention about Classroom before we wrap it up for the day here. So, of course, again, I'm not going to go and cover everything about Google Classroom in this session here. But of course, when you are making your classroom, keep things organized. That's kind of the big thing of being an advanced user, especially with Google Classroom, is keeping things organized. If you need to make if you're running out of space in your Google Classroom, meaning your classwork tab is really full of stuff, and it's hard for students to tell what they're supposed to go do. If there's a big giant list of items in your Google Classroom, it may be a good idea to create a second Google Classroom and carry students over. I created a video that I'll just show you guys real quick here. It's on our YouTube channel at Neonet Tech Integration. And let me head over in here. There is a video called, let's see, where are you? Here it is. It's this one here, carry over students to a new Google Classroom. And so this video just basically goes over how to carry over students from one classroom to another, especially good for new grading periods or when your Google Classroom really just kind of gets full. So I'll actually just show this video real quick. All right, so that video real quick just shows you how to carry over students from one classroom to another. Again, that's especially useful if you are kind of like filling up your classroom just with materials and assignments and stuff, and that classwork tab really gets full. You can still keep that classroom intact. You don't have to necessarily delete a whole bunch of items. You can just carry those students over to a new Google Classroom and just start fresh there for the new grading period, for new semester, just to keep stuff cleaned up. All right. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into the basics here of Google Classroom. A couple of advanced things I'll talk about here, though, is differentiating. So, of course, that's a big thing that you can do when creating an assignment or giving out materials through Google Classroom. It's a good idea to differentiate when you need to. So when you create an assignment or a material, you can select what students are going to receive it. Just click on that students button and you can select which students are going to receive that item. And that's, of course, you can make basically the gen ed version of an assignment that goes out to your gen ed students, and then an IP version that has those accommodations built in, whatever they may be, and those go to those students that, on IEPs. That way, the students themselves aren't going to know the difference. From their perspective, they're not going to see each other's work or anything like that. But that way you have that differentiation built right in there, so you're not going to have to worry about a student with an IEP not getting their accommodations. A couple of little things here about grading. So Google Classroom now allows for grading categories. So you can set default point values and see overall grades. So as you can see from the screenshot, again, just summarizing real quick, you can create these grade categories. That way you don't have to worry about forgetting how many points you set for homework normally or things like that. So that you can set those grade categories under settings for that class. And of course, you can make a comment bank in grade view when you're grading student work. Use the comment bank, of course, is always a good idea. Speaking of the comment bank, we won't have enough time to watch this video here, but if you're interested, on slide 88 here is a video talking about how to leave video feedback for students in Google Classroom. Basically, you create a video through Screencastify or other screen recorder tool, and you just create a video, and then you drop the link for that video as a comment for students when they turn in some work. Okay, and so that's the chances of students watching a 30-second video of you giving feedback is probably a lot higher than the chances of them reading a whole big gigantic paragraph of all the feedback that you're trying to give them. So you can give them the same information in a more accessible way. Okay, a couple of extensions and add-ons here for Google Classroom. Google Cast for Education is a good one. This is basically allows students to be able to share their screen with you. Again, when you're teaching virtually, of course, you can just do that through Google Meet or Zoom. But when you're not, it is kind of a cool tool to check out. Screencastify, Nimbus, those are both good screen recorders. Save to Google Drive lets you grab any file that you come across and just instantly save it right into your Google Drive just from clicking the extension. Edpuzzle is a video quiz maker, so you can take a video that you find on YouTube, click this icon, and you'll be able to take it over to your Edpuzzle account where you can make a video quiz out of it. And then Emoji One Keyboard is exactly what it sounds like. Other tools to check out real quick. You can add apps to your Google Drive. So there you may run into things where you need a little extra functionality to be able to do things from your Google Drive. I'll show you two quick examples. Let me just go over here. Let me open up a PDF here. And I'll just grab a PDF. Just want to find an example here. So I have an app added to my Google Drive that lets me easily just edit or sign PDFs. So this is, of course, is a really helpful thing when you need to like sign a form or something like that, or you find some worksheet or something online that you want to print, but it has parts that you don't like or you want to change something. So of course you can make whatever changes that you like to PDF files. So if I take, I'll just open up this one for example here. If I open up like a PDF file and I go up to open with, I have this tool, this app installed here called Doc Hub. And this again lets me sign or edit PDFs. And once this opens up for me, I'll be able to add stuff to the to this PDF. I can like sign it. I can draw things on it. I can kind of do all the same stuff. If you're familiar with Cami, it's kind of the same idea. The way to get these apps installed is by clicking on our little settings gear up here. And we go to settings. And then we'll go to manage apps. Okay. And we'll see the ones that we already have attached. And if we want to add some more in, we can do connect more apps. And we can look through. Again, depending on your school, if you're using your school account, you may or may not have the ability to be able to add apps to your Google Drive. Some schools allow their teachers to do it, some don't. So just kind of be aware of that. But again, you can scroll through and find all these different add-ons. I should say apps, but they essentially work just like add-ons for like a Google Doc or a slide. It's kind of the same idea where you get some extra functionality out of it. Okay. One other one I wanted to show real quick as well is you can also, let's do a picture here. If you, I'll just show one more example of another helpful app that I like. So I'll take my picture here of my beautiful face. And there's another app I use called Cloud Convert. And this is really good for converting a file from one type to another. So if we open up a app or open up a file, so I have a picture file, PNG. And if I go to the open with here and do Cloud Convert, this is another app I have installed. And what this one does is it lets you convert one file to another file type. So for example, if I want to change this picture from a PNG into something else. So maybe I want to change this into a PDF. I can do that. Just click convert, change it to a PDF. It'll take a moment to load up. And then we'll go ahead and download it here. And now this is actually a PDF file of the same file that we started with, but now it's a PDF file. Okay, and you can do the same thing. You can do this with picture files. You can do this with audio files. You can do this with video files, images, presentations, all this sort of stuff. Okay, so again, you get it the same way as we saw. So again, settings gear, when you're in your drive, go into settings, manage apps, and then connect more apps if you don't have it installed already. Okay. Other things, kind of going down the rabbit hole here. Google Arts and Culture is getting bigger. That's where you're going to have more virtual field trip tools, especially like museum trip kind of things. Bloggers, where you can create a blog website. Google Books, Google Calendar, of course. We already talked about Earth, but again, there's even more stuff here. Again, for our purposes, we're kind of running low on time, but there is a lot out here for you guys to explore. All right. Last thing I'll kind of mention here, last couple things, Google Quick Tips. So this is another site that I've linked there for you for the Learning Center, where you can go learn more about any tool in the Google world. So if you're trying to learn more about, Google Sheets or something, you can come in here and learn more. Okay. Again, other tips and tools in here. I just kind of threw a bunch of stuff at the wall here. But skipping ahead here, just so we can wrap up here. This page on slide 96 lists off several search tips and tricks. So when you're actually doing a Google search, these are some tips and tricks there for you to know how to kind of search for the things that you actually want to search for. And to wrap up finally, so there's a lot of information in this session, I know. I kind of always like to put this session to bed with this kind of summary. You don't have to know everything about all these tools that we're covering. And I like this idea of thinking backwards. That is, have a goal or an idea in mind, and chances are there's a G Suite app for that. You don't have to know everything about Google Sheets to be able to make use of it. You don't have to know every single thing about Google Sites to make use of it. You just need to know the things that you need to know to make your job easier. That's the point of technology. It's to make your job easier, make your life easier, use it to solve problems and make a better school, do your job better. That's pretty much what there is to it. You don't have to be the guru and know every single thing about it. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and open it up for questions here. There's our to-do list that we started with. There's our upcoming sessions and information about graduate credit if you're interested in that. But again, I'll open it up for questions, let you guys ask anything that's coming to mind. But other than that, that will bring us down to the end here, everybody. So if you have any other questions, of course, feel free to shout out. If you think of something down the line, always feel free to shoot me an email, dneeson@neonet.org. If you're here live with us, please do go ahead and sign in. There's also a survey here on the last slide, slide 103 as well. So if you're interested in that, yeah, I'll put the sign-in link in there in the chat for you. Yep, just drop the sign-in link in there. All right, and again, any other questions, feel free to shout out. If you think of something down the line, always feel free to shoot me an email. And again, feel free to take that survey on the last slide as well. And again, you can get the slideshow from today at bit.ly/advancegs. And if you have any other questions, let me know. But other than that, I'll go ahead and close off the recording, and we will call this a day. If you're watching this as a recording, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.